Okay, we are recording. Time?
5:27 p.m.
Okay, so we get started a little early. We'll probably have some people walk in. I never rely on my watch. And you want a few minutes to look over the minutes, or we can do that after if you want. If you guys don't mind, we'll let these guys go first. They're gonna present their story to us.
You sure they don't want to listen to the stormwater pollution prevention plan?
I think so.
They haven't got too much that favorable to say about some of the preservationists, because they're losing their airport.
About
They're
what?
trying to, huh?
About losing what?
They're losing their airport.
Tanner.
Oh, right.
And to the, you guys can explain it.
Yeah, he asked him, yeah.
Well, just briefly, I'll introduce ourselves very quickly. I'm Matthew Carr. My compatriots over here are all glider pilots, Colette and Peter Judge, and our tug pilot, Brett, the main guy. So bottom line is, yeah, we've been towing out of Tanner Hill for the last, gosh, going on 12 years, I'd say. Close to 13, sorry, got that exact. I actually been flying out of there for about 17 myself. I had some powered aircraft. I had an ultralight, so on prior. But yes, we are looking for a new home. We're not sure. There's some legal issues going on with Tanner because the way the conservation group had acquired it did it in a very kind of, I'd call it underhanded way. But we'll get into that later. The bottom line is they're looking at flipping it over to Fish and Wildlife in Mass, and then completely taking it down entirely. So it will be nothing but essentially a bike trail at some point. So yeah, that's really it. Very brief is that we're looking for a place. We tow like a normal sailplane operation, same concepts. We're gliders, but just lower performance, slower. And we tow up, we release, we thermal out, sometimes fly for hours, We used to fly cross country long distances, but we're gotten kind of old and lazy now. We tend to come back and land at the airport. Just because it's, a little more convenient. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. We're looking for a place. Mostly we need a home for Brett he has 2 aircraft, planes powered in what we got tandem unit, because he does tow people up that want to learn and so on. So that's a lot of the fun part. They can actually tow up and release with an instructor.
Right.
The rest of us are doing solo, meaning that we just go up and free fly like any sailplane. So I think the important part for him for the time being that we need is really a hangar. He has airplanes like anybody else and trying to maintain them and keep them in good shape. So
Exactly, yeah.
got to do that.
Got to have some kind of hangar can't have a fabric airplane tied down out there for too very long without some sort of problems. The center probably could figure out, a hangar for them. That would be good. And I really only need one, like enough room for one of them. Put together a full hangar. The other one I can actually break down, put the wings, for storage. I don't need to operate 2 at one time. So.
What's the wingspan on them roughly, or?
I'd have to check, but I want to say like 34 or 35 feet, something like that.
Okay.
A little less than a J3 or something, I guess.
Yeah.
And Isabel, you said you'll check on those couple of options, potentially. Essentially, you may have some good ideas for us on that.
Okay.
We're willing
They
to.
haven't said yes before, but I'll approach it again and just see where they're
Yeah,
at.
just check it out, yeah.
They might be willing to,
Things change, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm sorry, that was very brief, but is there any questions and, the way we operate? I mean, essentially we go ahead.
Yeah, what do you use for, what's your traffic pattern?
Well, it depends what you would want here. Is it a left
Okay.
hand?
Yeah, we certainly could adjust. I know at Tanner, we generally had a left-hand pattern.
Right.
Ended up a lot of houses and things you would end up over, and we actually there, and I checked with Steve on it, he's kind of been there a very long time. So we actually did a right-hand pattern at Tanner, at least on the one end, because it wasn't over houses and it wasn't over things, and it's like, I think it's smarter to go over farms than it is that. And I didn't see a problem, you know, with the activities going on out there. Of course, there's more here than there is there, but we certainly can, any kind of pattern that you guys think may be better for us, we certainly could.
Are you talking noise and so on, or just either to?
Well, just how you mix in with the other aircraft.
Right, right.
Because we have a lot of students that come up here and use this because we have a perpetual crosswind. And they like training with you. They come up by and do, you know, touch and goes or landings and takeoffs and things like that. If it's a windy day, which probably you wouldn't be flying anyhow, but
Right.
you might, at some point you might cross paths. That's all I'm looking at. I know, I flew out of Jaffrey for many years, and they had a lot of ultralights up there. And they were doing right-hand pattern, pretty much. That was basically established as a right-hand pattern, and they were kept at, I think, 500 to 700, maybe. It might have been just 500 feet they were supposed to be. And then they'd come into the pattern land on the runway side of it, or whatever they did. Helicopters generally use like right-hand patterns when they come into the pattern. I think that's standard for them. But they'll be up, I don't know, 1,000 feet. You guys might know better than I would on some of that.
Well, the main thing is I think we're pretty flexible on that having.
Push higher!
And if you guys think that's something better.
No, we just trying to
Right
keep.
hand, left hand, or, you know.
Yeah, I don't know, we could work it out. I mean,
Right.
I just wanna be sure that when MassDOT or somebody comes in and says, well, what's going on? This is what we got to establish. And this side of the runway, you might have to wear water wings if you decide to be down off the airport. But, other than
Your
that,
left hand, both ends.
we're
here,
left
right?
hand all the time for airplanes, and
Yeah.
then you'd switch over to the other side if it was the winds.
Yeah,
When we have a south wind, the downwind is on that side for left-hand pattern, so you just flip over to the other side.
mhm.
But it's mostly the separation of altitude and just watch. I've had a close encounter with a ultralight landing in Jaffrey one day, and these guys weren't playing by anybody's rules, and they weren't from the area, and it was close, but
Do you monitor the frequency?
you don't have.
Or
we don't.
what do
You
do?
don't have.
Mostly for the tandem flights, we were off the very end of the runway there, and unfortunately with the noise from the wind and stuff, it's not like a cabin inside an aircraft. I can't hear very well, but on the ground I can hear really good. And usually for those I would announce on the tandem flights. The solos are kind of in the middle of the field. We got guys out there, and we didn't really depend on the radios because we weren't starting at near the end of the runway. We were kind of more near the center of the field because that's all the runway we need. We're doing the solo flight for the tandems. We're using all the runway and the grass on the ends.
So what's the liftoff for 300-400 feet? I mean,
With
your ground roll?
you know, it depends on the wind so much. Depends on, you know, how big somebody is. In the case of the tandem gliders,
So,
they're usually in the air about the length of the rope. And from there.
So that's about 200 feet.
And from there, depending again on a number of things, it's usually in the neighborhood of 300 feet a minute, something like that with tandem flights. And it can be a little better than that, it can be a little worse than that, depending on how the air's coming over the hill there. There are lots of factors that change things at Tanner, and then the old things like density, altitude, and that, plays a factor. But I always found it was more the convective activity and some of the flow over the hills affected things much more than normal, conventional thinking with, you know, you know, the density of the air, you know, on a hot day when it's real thin, the density, altitude, playing a big role. It's always been funny to me on a larger aircraft where they figure that down to a T and it works, but we're flying through such micro meteorology. What's going on right there vastly changes what we do, and it's almost not even a factor. It's that much difference. So anyway, things you learn, flying things really slow versus
Yeah,
going fast.
well, you're very susceptible to the updrafts.
And we are, and also just roll.
Which we like.
Yeah, you know, like if there's some turbulence coming over the trees there, probably when it starts approaching 10 mile, or probably like a Tanner, we have a hard time dealing with it with slow flying things. And even with aerodynamic controls, you have you have a problem dealing with it, and the hang gliders are weight shift, and they even have less roll control, so when they get messed up, it gets pretty crazy. It's just taken us like, what, 50 years to figure out that when the wind's blowing a little bit, we just don't fly.
Yeah.
For light wind conditions.
We also have, we had first 2 weeks of September, we had Sterling moved all their gliders up and some of the planes because they were gonna be closed. And I know when the glider operation was here back when they were doing it up there, we were pretty good around here because they had the city, and the city had a lot of parking lots. They get over the city and they just sit there in a circle and go up and up. And so I think we're a little denser populated than Barry. And we've got areas, and we're more so now, but I think we can all live together very well. And they, here again, would use right-hand power. And depending on which way the wind was going, and they'd come in and land in the grass usually over there.
Okay.
And,
Yeah,
but,
well, you guys think that would be a better way to go? We certainly can do that, no problem.
well, that's kind of what I'm thinking, that just keep you separated enough. It's kind of ironic, because the most I've ever, my personal experience is the only time I've had come close to a midair was Fitchburg with all the students. I had one guy go under me. Well, I had one up at in Sanford, Maine one day, this last year. But Fitchburg was years ago, and with the students, they weren't listening, and they were all over the place. And the one in Sanford was a guy just coming the other way on the runway. He took off to when the wind was out of the north, everybody was using the north. He took off to the south.
Yeah.
He went over me at 200 feet, I stayed at 100, or 50, and went under him, and then I kept going. But I asked the FBO up there, and he says, oh yeah, we know who it is. He does it all the time. But, you know, just doesn't have any regard for anybody else.
So
Anyway,
were you thinking something where it'd be like right hand for us, or
Right hand.
left hand? say
No,
on
right
side?
hand for you guys, and, you know, maybe, I don't know, 500 to 700 feet, pattern altitude's 1,000 feet.
Yeah,
Just keep it separated that way. I don't know, I run it up the ladder a little bit to find out what everybody thought. But
yeah. And
anybody else got any questions?
Yeah.
Any of you guys? Phil, you don't have any radios, do you?
Mm-hmm.
See, so we're used to having somebody with no radios around. And,
Yeah, and it is fairly quiet here, like I was saying.
right.
We're not super busy. We get some traffic from Pittsburgh, but not a lot. They'll come over and get fuel, do a couple of, stop and goes, touch and goes, and then go back to Pittsburgh, but it's pretty quiet here. And out there is very quiet.
And you have event weekends once in a while? You mentioned you have events happening here.
Yeah, we're trying to have more of that.
And you probably publish those,
Pardon?
you publish those, the events?
Yeah.
we used to have the jet people come up, and they took over the one end of the runway. And I think we figured out a way to do it if they wanted, but I haven't heard from them since before COVID.
Yeah, we were interested in having them come back, but we didn't get that coordinated, but yeah, maybe some.
But I just meant we probably, if it was busy here, we would skedaddle that weekend or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with when we had the jet traffic, they were really good about, you want to go out, go ahead. You know, they just wait 10 minutes and you're gone. And when you were coming back, they had spotters, they had an air boss that watched everything. And they did good. I've even gone out and come back while they were operating. And it's not a problem. And it's safe. That's the whole thing. But,
So anyway, I'll make some inquiries and see if I can come up with something.
Okay. The other thing is too, for the other, I guess the powered ultralights and stuff, you know, I'm assuming you're thinking the same thing with those. And I mean, the aircraft that I tow with is a light sport aircraft. The
that would
powered-
be, yeah, that would be if it's a light sport, that would classify as an airplane. So
Right.
you go out, you know, you climb probably straight out, and they would say that if you had to go downwind with a tow, you'd go take a right hand, you'd stay in the right hand pattern. I would think, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Any ideas on that? Because normally, if you weren't towing, you'd have to be left-hand pattern because you're almost with the aircraft. I mean, when you cruise at
Right, I didn't know.
90.
Well, no.
100,
No, ultralight speeds.
oh, ultralight. Yeah, but I mean,
Powered
If it's a
ultralight
light-
speeds.
if
It
it's
is
a power
truly-
ultralight,
It is truly
but it's a light sport.
light sport, but light sport doesn't have anything to do with the pattern, it's the speed that has to do
That's
with
what
that.
I'm
Now,
saying.
if you want to try to jam it in a category, it'd be different, but you probably, I would think the ultralights would want to stay on the powered ultralight. It gets confusing here, because the hang gliders are also ultralights, but the powered ultralights would probably want to do similar as these slow light sport aircraft, I guess I should say. You know, they're slow aircraft, they fit together, because the whole problem with fitting in with what we call normal aircraft are the speeds.
Right.
That's the problem. And of course, there are light sport aircraft that are fast, and those fit in.
That's why when you said light sport, but
That's why light sport is, there's two different light sports.
there's a sports category.
Right.
Or what they call them, I forget how that works.
Yeah, so anyway, light sport, you have fast and you have slow. And you have so slow that they're like ultralight speeds.
That's fine.
Anyway, I was just trying to clarify for the.
I think, you know, yeah, I mean, we need to be educated on that too.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just going by personal experiences with a lot of the stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't know much about them.
Yeah, well, in particular, the one that I'm flying for towing the hang gliders, the ultralights, it's very slow, and that's why I'm able to tow
Yeah, that's what I figured.
the hang gliders.
And that's why I was saying probably the right-hand pattern's better.
That's right, that's right. So, and with these other slow ultralights, which are slow, the powered ultralights would fly the same pattern. So I'm thinking like Will Paul that's not here, that has a powered.
I'm almost like in between. My
Yeah.
plane has like a 40-mile-an-hour stop,
And
cruise
the-
at 60, so I could
That's right.
go either direction with it.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how comfortable you are with other airplanes.
That's right, yeah.
You know, do you go to other airports?
No, yeah, actually, I just finished my dual hours with Rhett here, and I'm waiting to solo officially, and then all this stuff happened at the airport, and I just had a new kid last night, actually. I have to go back to the hospital.
Oh.
So I got my training signed up recently, but I bought my first house across the river from Tanner Hill. I could raise my family there and play at the airport, and now this is heartbreaking what's going on, so
Yeah.
I'd love to
No,
be a part of
it-
this
it-
move if it ends up happening.
Yeah, and, you know, here again, I'm just all about promoting aviation, and I think there's many facets to aviation, and we can all live together.
Mhm.
And it's just, if you're, it's having somebody around that knows that there is other aircraft and you can listen to the radios, and so on, somebody has a way of signaling somebody or whatever to get out of the way. or tell the other aircraft that there is an ultralight in the pattern,
Mhm.
right-hand pattern, they know where to look. And that makes it easier, because when guys don't play by the right rules, then they get into trouble. And you can see it. And, but that's good, good. I'm happy. Any other questions? Anybody?
Need an air.
And if you have any number for us, please let us know.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
the
radios, we use radios, but only it used to, and we don't really anymore, because it was just more of a convenience in the old days.
Yeah.
But we use pretty much only 2-meter and business band style radios, little, you know.
Should have somebody with a 122.8 portable or an aircraft radio that can be on the ground or looking.
Yeah.
And that would be the only thing I think that would.
The only thing for us is, and I think the importance of the grass is, once we're on approach and we have no, like we lose lift, we're gliding. We have no choice.
Oh yeah.
We're coming
Yeah.
down.
And the idea is that amount of time, because your pattern will be tighter.
Yep.
And you'll be slower, and the other aircraft would have to, either do one loop around the pattern or something or go out and do a 360 or something like that. But yeah, it's just having somebody watch what's going on a little bit, especially while people are learning.
Do you update the FAA that there are hang gliders or ultralights operating at the airport?
We can.
We could,
That's
yeah.
not a
could
problem.
post notice, just say occasional.
But if it becomes all the time, then, because I'm assuming you guys like evenings in the summer and things like that, you go until later in the day.
Right.
That's
And
probably
that's-
not the right assumption.
Huh?
We'll go all day.
Yeah, but I mean.
Well, with training,
Training
certainly
and stuff, yes.
early morning, late evening.
Yeah.
Early morning, late.
But the most advantageous time for an experienced pilot would be 2 o'clock, so
Right.
heat of the day.
Yeah, the same as with a glider pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so what I was explaining is, well, we have the train tandem intro flights I was telling you about, and those are usually morning and evening. And then during the middle of the day, the guys that are soaring, they're looking for the lift. And so there's that going on.
Right.
But also, since we're so, the weather used to be ideal, we, probably average 2 to 3 days a week, probably 2.5 days a week.
I believe
So we have, because some days we might be 4 days in a row, and then there'll be a week or two goes by and we don't do anything.
I understand.
So it's just
When
kind of.
And no high winds anymore. We used to,
Right.
no more.
We used to, fly no matter what, that's kind of gone.
All right, well, thank you very much for letting
you.
us know, that's
Yeah.
very
Have you
interesting.
got all their information
Yeah,
right now?
yeah, and I will call you back.
Thank you for the consideration, really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Oh,
All right,
Yeah.
everybody would love to
We
fly.
can happy to help you, I hope we can find something. Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very good. Thank you.
Bye, take care. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Bye, take care.
Really nice to meet you, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. We'll see you. Okay. Call anytime.
Thank you.
See, he's got my number.
Yeah, well, I'll probably be coming back over, visiting
I'm
a
around.
little bit and talking a little bit.
I'm around a lot.
Okay, great, super.
And I only live 15 minutes away. So
Okay, thank you guys.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, back to the regularly scheduled program.
Look, that master plan sure clears the party, huh?
Are they gonna bring any revenue to the airport?
They rent, they buy fuel occasionally, probably, but they don't like 100 overhead for the road.
Right, no,
so-
they use it, regular automotive.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't be much like
We'll work on it.
Yeah,
You
okay.
gotta get that popsicle stand going. And they'll do that, yeah, we'll be all set.
Did everybody get a copy of our update?
No.
Did you look at the minutes?
Yeah.
wanna pass them, or do you wanna continue to?
You going?
It was complicated trying to figure out how to do the minutes for the meeting, because we got so much around. And, I kinda got a little inventive. I took all my cues from the way the meeting ran.
Yeah.
That was exactly how the meeting ran. Push the rest of the others. So, I need a motion to accept the minutes, if that's your desire, or,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
okay? And I need a second,
Second.
and any questions or anything about them? It's a lot of reading. Try checking them all for typos. No guarantee. So if we approve the minutes?
Yep.
Cool. There are a couple more. So approve the minutes,
Okay, I'll approve it.
one more.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Do your thing.
Okay, let me face everybody.
Yep. I will pull this chair up.
Okay, are you sure you don't mind?
Nope, no mind at all.
Okay, great. I'm in the hot seat. Here we
Hot
go.
seat.
So the runway reconstruction project, we all know the main apron was reconstructed, so I'm starting on the blue text on page 2, by the way.
Yep.
Or the new items. So main apron reconstructed before June 30th, which is the deadline Mass DOT has for their airport safety and maintenance program. Grants, all work has to be completed and submitted by that time, so that was all done. Walkthrough was held with Mass DOT on August 27th. So that seems everything good with the apron, concerns, anything? Everything seems good? Okay. I know there's been some flooding that has occurred on the airport during some storms earlier in the summer, so there have been some additional erosion control measures installed to help, hopefully, some of that grass establish and alleviate additional flooding. Is there anything that we should know since last time?
The mats don't like helicopters.
The mask on what?
Like helicopters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they tend to roll up
They twisted,
they rolled it up
yeah.
on the side, because MassDOT was in here for 2 days working with MIT, and they were coming up the taxi.
Which section do you?
Just down on the,
It's
from the
okay,
south end down anyway.
unfurled it and flattened it out again. And, they were back and forth on the taxiway with the helicopter, and it just rolled up into a tunnel.
And we've had a couple of helicopters in here, and they're buying fuel from us now, and so they tend to do that too. But we will keep working on it. Okay.
Good to know. I won't go into hopefully too much detail or take too much time, but we talked a little bit last month about the airport's industrial stormwater pollution prevention plan, and that is a requirement of the Environmental Protection Agency. All industrial facilities, including airports, basically have to have a plan that shows where stormwater discharge is leaving the airport and entering any sorts of other water sources, rivers, streams, ponds, brooks, etc. So Gail has put together a draft SWIP, we'll call it, so that's all complete. What we have to do now is apply for permit coverage, because the airport will actually receive a permit under, it's called a multi-sector general permit, basically to discharge stormwater, which is, it's an existing facility, it's already happening. But So we've started preparing what's called a notice of intent, and that's pretty much mostly assembled, Jim. And the SWIP is mostly assembled. I'm just looking for a couple of plan updates, revising those things and getting them in top shape before anything gets posted. So that will be submitted, and the SWIP includes basically plans for how the airport should monitor stormwater controls and things like that. And I just wanted to, I guess, bring to everyone's attention some of the requirements under this permit that will have to be conducted. So there's a few different things that need to happen with respect to inspections. There are routine facility inspections, and those are typically conducted once per quarter. And really what the intention of that is walk around the airport, take a look at the different stormwater controls areas that have the potential to be, have stormwater come in contact with them. You're basically looking for anything that might be, wrong with any of these stormwater management systems, and noting and documenting. There's also what's called a quarterly visual assessment of stormwater discharge, so you have to also go out to the outfall during a rain event and collect a sample in a clear jar and inspect it. And you're looking for things like, is it anything other than clear water with no smell? So if there's an odor, if there's suspended solids, if there are any sort of materials, foam, anything like that, that needs to be documented and noted. There are two other components. Those things are typically handled on the airport side, but there are two monitoring requirements that are new under this newly developed permit. And those are what's called indicator monitoring and impaired waters monitoring. I won't get into the crazy details, but effectively at various points throughout the coverage under this permit, you actually have to not only take the sample, but you have to send it out to a lab to be analyzed. So the indicator monitoring, what they're looking for is different PAH chemicals, and there are certain parameters. There aren't any thresholds right now. Basically, EPA just wants to know at airports. This is every airport under this system. Are any of these chemicals present at all? And that has to be analyzed by a lab and reported into their reporting. There's a portal where you can upload all of this documentation.
And where do these chemicals come from? Manufacturing processes?
They could come from, and because there's industrial activity going on here at the airport. You have fuel here. You have you have fuel here. You have pavement maintenance that happens. You have airplanes. It's really mostly the fuel that would be of concern. But you'll see when you actually look through the SWIP document itself, we've identified every single area where there might be a chemical, there might be a type of fuel, there might be any sort of item that could be discharged into the stormwater, and that's all really clearly identified there. So
where does the stormwater go now? Into the ground?
It goes into, there are all kinds of different drainage ditches and swales, and then there are ultimately outfalls where the water leaves the airport property and discharges into areas. Like one of the concerns, and I'll talk about this, is
we're surrounded by swamps.
Yep, and different streams and rivers and things like that. And actually the Otter River is one of the areas where there's a discharge, and that is actually listed, classified under the EPA's classification system. It's an impaired water. So if an airport or any facility discharges to an impaired water, you have to do what's called impaired water monitoring, which is similar to the indicator monitoring. Collect a sample, it has to go out to a lab, but you're looking for that specific chemical that's causing the pollution basically in that body of water. So that's all outlined We have the, the chemical that you're looking for, and you can, the airport can send this out to a lab. I don't know, Jim, if anyone from DPW within the city, I'd imagine that there are other industrial facilities that probably fall within this system within the city, and I don't know how the city handles if they have someone that a lab that they use, or if they have a procedure. So there might be something. I would check with the city.
I can ask.
Yeah, okay. And Isabel, I'll send you some more detail on this of what needs to happen. There are different forms and everything that you could possibly need to be in compliance with this requirement is included in that stormwater pollution prevention plan. So any form you need, procedural things, all of that is included. And I'm happy at any time, to sit down and go into a lot more detail with you about what needs to happen and when and how and all that kind of
Maybe
stuff.
the dump or the transfer station already has something.
They may, yeah, they may. They very well may. I would imagine that would be something. I mean, there are definitely other industrial facilities within a city that would, presumably fall under one of these categories. So I bet someone at DPW would know exactly what you're talking about if you reach out.
Okay.
So anyway, I just wanted to give the update and let all of you know that those are some additional requirements now that are coming under the new permit, and that we'll have to start making sure, the airport will have to start making sure that you're complying with those things and submitting the reports and getting the, all the tests done that you need to do.
And what permit is it?
It's called a multi-sector general permit for stormwater discharge at industrial facilities.
Oh, I see it, okay.
Yep.
Got it.
MSGP.
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 Yep.
I got it,
Yep.
okay.
I know, so many, I try not to say all the acronyms all the time because I'm like, it's like so many different alphabet soup going on.
So the samples would be taken on airport property?
They would be taken at the discharge point. So we have a plan put together that shows like basically all that stormwater outfalls, and you'd have to go and collect the sample from
So
there.
we'd have a designated spot?
Yes.
Would be collected?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, so there are 5 at the airport. I know that one of the items that we need to complete is we have to do a site visit to confirm all of the locations and make sure that they're correct, and take a look at some of the different stormwater management areas and make sure that there aren't any concerns that would need to be addressed. So
Another, because we had a contamination with a fuel tank, is because of the in-ground tank that we had, it was a number of years ago. That was cleaned, I believe, completely.
So,
Why even that?
when you fill out the notice of intent, which is the application for this permit, you have to report, you go basically, a component of it is looking up any sort of spills that happened on the airport property within the last 3 years. So if it was long ago,
20 years ago.
it's nothing that has to be reported within this, it's just recent things.
That was all dug out and soil was trucked off to New York?
And tested and everything like that. Because this is the headwaters of the Otter River. But a mile down, not even a mile, about a mile downstream, we have a wastewater treatment plant that dumps into the Otter River. So,
At least it's downstream.
Yeah.
And
And if you keep going, it comes by an automotive salvage yard.
and it goes down to you can follow it all the way down through Baldwin, because they have a sewage treatment plant over there too.
Well, the good news is you're not testing the Otter River, you test what's coming off the airport, so, presumably if all your stormwater controls are in good working order, presumably there wouldn't be anything detected, but that's really what they're looking for, and with the indicator monitoring to just see, are any of these chemicals coming off of this facility?
I think they're the only thing that is right now, because we have fresh pavement, hydrocarbons, will be, and whatever they call them, I don't know, the residue, until they the pavement gets dried out and evaporates. It takes quite a while to do that, and highways, stuff like that. So I would say we're probably, anything up here, like I said, we're at the headwater, after it goes underneath the highway, Route 2, anything goes after that. So you get all, it'll be interesting. And like they say in here, you were saying that they don't have any parameters yet.
Yeah.
Because it's a brand new rule, so we're guinea pigs.
Yeah, so anyway, that's just a very broad brush overview of like, basically how this will affect the day-to-day operations and what the requirements are. I'll give a lot more detail to, Isabel and Jim, and, everyone will be able to review that document.
Do you do the samples yourself, or do you have to have an expert come in, or do we know yet?
Yeah, the airport could take the samples. There's a sampling guide, but you would have to send it out to a professional lab. Okay. So, and have it tested and have the test results, come back. But there are certainly companies that do SWIP, implementation that you could hire. Gale Associates is not an environmental firm, so we don't have that service that we offer. But that would be, something that you could look for.
There's one in here.
I think I mentioned it to the mayor, last time I was in his office, we were talking about it a little bit, and he says, oh yeah, we do this all the time.
Yeah, okay, so if there might even be someone within the city that already does this and they already have a procedure. That's where I would recommend starting within the city and seeing if you can just get roped into what, wrapped into the overall city program of whatever it is that they do and how they conduct these things, as long as they understand that, it has to be submitted on a certain schedule. Presumably, they would send the report to you, or you, Jim, or Isabel, and you would be able to submit the report on behalf of the airport, but maybe they'd help you out with the actual testing.
I'll find out and report on it next meeting.
Okay, that sounds great, and call me any questions you have about it, because I know I just gave like a really broad overview of it, but so that's all I have as far as the runway reconstruction project and the SWIP are concerned. Really actions requested of the commission, so coordinating with Gale to post the draft SWIP to the airport's website once that document's finalized, and then executing the notice of intent. So I, as the consultant, I am authorized to be what's called a preparer of the application, but I'm not authorized to actually execute it. So all you have to do, Jim, is just create an account, log in, sign it, and there you go. So it should be pretty straightforward. I can walk you through all that.
Okay.
Any questions, concerns before I move on? Okay. Airport master plan, item number 2 on page 3, starting in the blue. I know we've talked about the hazard beacons at length, so just to let everybody know, we did receive that determination from the airspace office on those beacons, and they were determined to be, deemed as hazards to air navigation, as they call it. So I followed up with them because, the plan for action of what actually needs to happen with these things was not clear. So I reached out to the airspace office. Robert had agreed to be, the CC on me, so he's been on the correspondence. Unfortunately, he's, obviously isn't here. But I reached out to the airspace office and said, hey, is there, can you provide a little bit more insight on what needs to happen? And they said, you really need to work with the airport district's office, the planner and the engineer there, to develop that plan. So I forwarded all of that stuff over to Colleen Mayu and Sam Smithies over at FAA, and I asked them if they can jump in and kind of provide a little bit more guidance on, what has to happen here. Do these beacons need to come down? And next steps, we'll also obviously discuss whether or not that's something that is eligible for funding through AIP and all those sorts of things. So please stay tuned, working really hard to get some answers on these things, but hopefully, you know, we've at least had that determination so the district office can start making some decisions and helping us out.
So it's funny, we put them up to show the obstructions, and now we have to take them down because they are obstructions.
So yeah, so they changed, the flight procedures has changed their requirements, and now they don't like terrain penetrations because they're already noted in, you know, in the traffic pad, you know, in their files effectively. So they don't require them to be lit anymore. So now here you have these, you know, you have these obstruction lights that are up that are now penetrations themselves. So, but we'll try to work and get some answers on this stuff. I know you've been waiting for a really long time.
3 years.
So, we're moving. Any questions about the beacons before I move on to the next thing? Okay. So last time we went over the alternatives through chapter 6. I updated the chapter to reflect the commission's recommendations. I forwarded that chapter along to FAA and Mass DOT. I did receive comments back Monday afternoon from FAA, but I still to date, and I haven't looked at my email since I've been in this meeting, but I have not received comments back from Mass DOT, and I figured rather than try to, you know, go through FAA's comments one day and then Mass DOT's comments on a different day, I would compile all of them for our next meeting in November, and then present anything that they have, any changes that they're requesting, and then if there are any changes that need to happen to the plans that all of you looked at, I'll highlight those things, and if that changes the commission's opinion on what they would like to recommend for an alternative, we can certainly update that to whatever the commission chooses. So stay tuned again on that for next meeting in November, and I expect to have, you know, that together by then. I would also, following that, you know, approval of all the alternatives, I would also like to discuss the schedule of improvements. And that will lay out, you know, outline all of your different projects coming up through the short term, which is the next 5 years, what's really important to get done soon. And then you'll look at your midterm projects, so what needs to happen 6, 8, 10 years from now, and then anything that's long term, so out to that 20-year horizon that we've talked about before. So that's what's coming. The other thing that will need to be done is the airport layout plan, which is the sheet set that it will have your existing conditions plan. It will have a big airport data sheet that has all of your information about dimensions of safety areas and surfaces and coordinates of different points on the airport, all that stuff. You'll also have what's called the ultimate airport layout plan, which is the plan showing all of the proposed improvements on the airport that the commission has decided on. That ultimate airport layout plan will actually be circulated for signatures, so the airport will sign approving it. Also, Mass DOT and FAA will sign that document, and then it becomes an official document, and that becomes the tool that the airport uses for the next, you know, really usually about 15 years before you go into another master plan process. But it'll help guide the airport as to what needs to happen, you know, to achieve those goals that you're setting here. Any questions, comments on the master plan? Okay, keep it moving. Project number 3, wildlife hazard assessment, actually going to page 5 of 5. No update since last month. We know that we are waiting until spring 2025 to have Newark Ecological come out and conduct that site visit. So we'll get that, you know, project started as soon as we can in the springtime. And then, unless there are any questions on that, I can move into the CIP item. And Matt, if you have anything to add, just jump in at any point. So I know we discussed at the last month's meeting the airport's fiscal year 2025 project, which is proposed to be an environmental assessment with an obstruction study component. I had showed everyone that plan. where flight procedures had identified penetration points off of both runway ends. I know you have the 18B survey that's being conducted that will collect a lot of that obstruction information, and so we're proposing as part of that environmental assessment to also do an obstruction study that will show you exactly where these trees are located. Are they on airport property? Are they on private property? Will you need to coordinate with private property owners to remove some of these trees that are obstructing or other objects that might be obstructing into those approach surfaces, and really give you a sense of, from a safety standpoint, what needs to happen. The environmental assessment component is required by the FAA to satisfy what's called National Environmental Policy Act NEPA requirements. And those are basically any federal action that's undertaken or any action that's undertaken with federal money has to go through an environmental review process. So any of your projects that you would have coming up, for example, if you had, if you had to acquire easements to remove some trees on private property, actually conducting that tree clearing, constructing the fence was one of the items. Really what FAA wants to see is that the airport is considering all those environmental factors for short-term projects. So really anything that's anticipated, within the next 5-year period has to go through that review process. So we have also included the state component, the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act. Similar, similar requirements for review there. So we'll discuss, at scoping meeting what exactly, we're looking at and what thresholds may or may not be triggered as a result of some of these projects. Really, I know, I think the bottom line is the estimated total cost for the project. So that's for your environmental assessment, for the NEPA, the state component of that document, and for the obstruction analysis, we've estimated at $295,000. And we have confirmation from FAA that under the AIP program, they'll be contributing 95% federal funding, and then projects that are under the BIL program, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law program, would still receive the 90% because that had already been set as part of that legislation.
Does that mean that Mass DOT will pay the rest? Or will we still have a small local share?
2.5%.
They've indicated probably 2.5% on AIP projects. Now, whether or not FAA will require a combination of BIL money and AIP money on this project, sometimes they've done that in the past, is to be determined at this time. But I guess the discussion that I would want to have tonight, or just the request that I have of the commission, is to confirm the local share will be available for the fiscal year 2025 project. So, we can.
What would the local share be?
It would be, it could be up to 5% of that 295, but likely, it could be the 2.5%. So it's just unknown at this time whether FAA would allow the airport to take up the full grant as the airport improvement program and get 95% federal money, or if they'd say, nope, we'll do, for example, your $150,000 of non-primary entitlement under AIP and the rest has to go under the BIL. I'm not sure what they'll do, but I just want you to be aware that it might not all fall under that 95% bucket.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard to get local share until next July, although I was going to ask if we could possibly keep some of our fuel sales and rent sales and to come up with that amount just for that short term while the FAA has that higher threshold. I had that in writing, but I didn't have the conversation yet, but I did sort of tell them about it, so.
Yeah, and we can certainly, I mean, once we get into the process where, you know, we're actually scoping the project, if certain things, you know, are not as stringent, we're basically looking at, you know, and I hate to say like worst case scenario, but we try to put, you know, give you basically what the most expensive option for this project might be, knowing that, you know, some things may not, like maybe the Massachusetts thresholds are not tripped, that could happen, and then that component of the project wouldn't be necessary.
Which is what we think is likely. Jack and I have taken a preliminary look at that. We don't think we're triggering, we don't think the tree clearing, easements, or fencing are tripping any of the MIPA thresholds. So that, I don't know how much was that?
I think-
75,000?
I think it was, yeah, I think it was at the, maybe it was 20.
It was one of those numbers. I think the point is we haven't officially scoped this project, and we've just we scratched the surface on looking at the different thresholds. I don't think you're triggering any sort of MIPA thresholds, which will drive this project cost down.
Yeah.
But to Jackie's point, coming out of the CIP meeting, discussing with the agencies what may be needed for this next environmental project, we wanted to give you all the full scope, so that's what we're presenting.
Okay, just be aware it would be very difficult this fiscal year to get the local share.
Yeah, okay, so, well, I mean, so
As
we're.
low as you can, you know, make it for us to be able to get a local share, to
Yeah.
get something done.
And we would be looking at, just so you know, the process would be to submit planning grants. The application deadline is March 1st. And as you saw with the wildlife hazard assessment, the 18B survey, they don't even typically issue funds until later in the summer. I know, you know, I believe the grant offer date was July 30th for both of those projects that came online this year. So, so you wouldn't even be looking at having to come up with that local share, and then of course, you know, you have to kick the project off and actually get everything, you know, contracts together and whatnot. So you wouldn't actually even be looking for work to start on the CA likely until September, maybe even October of next year, depending on how long it takes for everything to be processed, just to give you a realistic picture. So it could be a year from, you know, a little less than a year from now before the project's actually kicking off and you're needing to contribute those.
Yeah, July 1st, like local share availability is not an issue.
Yeah.
Jackie's point, we go through all the scoping now, submit the grant applications, and we literally sit and wait for the FAA to fund these projects, because it doesn't happen until next summer, September, October timeframe, so.
Okay.
So, just to kind of start having those conversations, but Mass DOT and FAA are starting, and I should have added this onto the update, I apologize, but they are starting to schedule scoping meetings for these projects. So I would hope Jim and Isabel that, you know, I can work with the two of you offline to attend a scoping meeting. It's looking like, I think they've booked most of their October dates. Sam Smithies had indicated that she was gonna send out another round of meeting availability for November, so we'd probably be looking at November timeframe. The one thing that would need to happen in advance, again, would be that independent fee estimate that we've done for these other projects, so that would have to happen in advance, and the funds would have to be expended for that IFE in advance. So it'll be, you know,
But that's still a little ways out.
Yes.
Yeah, correct, and that's still a little ways out. We gotta get through scoping and
Yes,
everything first, just before we submit for March 1st.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we could, probably looking to do that IFE. Realistically, January timeframe would be when we'd be ready to be doing that. So anyway, I guess I'll take any questions that any of you have for me, for, you know, anyone else I feel that I can take back to the office.
I guess the high part is trying to wrap my mind around, trying to figure out or nail down some closer estimates on how much we gotta go and where we gotta go to
Yep.
for this money.
Yeah, and I think getting through the process of you know, actually scoping the project to be able to put numbers to paper. It's again, you were in the CIP meeting. It's a ballpark. It's a ballpark number. So you know, we can certainly fine tune that to
Because
see.
I just am, you know, always very leery about committing before I know.
Yeah, no,
Right,
rightfully
right.
so.
I think everybody's
Understood.
gonna be doing that, and who knows what's gonna be.
Yeah, and
Right.
we can really nail down in the scoping meeting too and clarify with FAA, hey, how much of this project is gonna be at that 95%, because that will
That has a
drive, yeah, will have a big impact on whether the airport can, you know, complete this project in this fiscal year.
Right.
So we'll certainly make sure that that is crystal clear when we all walk out of that meeting.
Yeah, okay. I don't know, anybody got any questions, or sounds like a lot of work, a lot of reading. And, what was it, we knew the next few years was gonna be studies.
Yeah.
I know.
And,
The EA unfortunately is unavoidable. If you want to do future projects, you gotta go through the NEPA process.
Yeah, and, you know, as far as obstructions are concerned, I mean, we can both attest to this, you know, that safety critical projects are number one. You know, that certain airports, if you don't address your obstructions, FAA won't fund other projects until you complete that. And, you know, it is required every time the city signs on to the grant assurances. You know, one of those items is that they're, you know, gonna maintain the safety of your, you know, protected surfaces, your approaches and all that stuff. So, you know, just trying to keep the airport in compliance with all those things. Anything else for me before I
I don't know,
go sit down?
get spending bills.
Yeah, well, you call me anytime.
We'll get you.
I know it's a lot to digest.
Try and see if we can figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, manager's report.
So, we're still cleaning up the grounds before winter, before the snow hits. Cleaning up some trees, some saplings before they grow into trees. I've started hauling those away. Haven't done any mowing recently because the grass has stopped growing. There is some more mowing to be done along the back area. The lawnmower needs an oil change. The 1 ton this week, we're gonna take it in and have the oil changed and have it looked at to assess if it needs anything before winter. We wanna make sure that's ready for snow plowing. We don't think the Freightliner would need too much. It hasn't been used that
No,
much.
I had 300 miles on it.
300 miles.
The Ford, we gotta be careful with that.
We're gonna just look at it and see if we.
Well, I fixed the license plate on the back before it fell off, and
Yeah,
the
well,
front.
let me just finish, okay? So that's what we're gonna do this week, just make an assessment, do the oil change, and then we'll get back to you with whatever we think it needs to be able to do the mowing this winter, and
Plowing this winter.
the plowing this winter, yes. And, what else? Rainmaker's final check is going out next week. They were very anxious, but I talked to them. That's going out next week, that's their final check. Gale Associates check is going out next week. That'll be mailed out next week. And John had waited until, you know, he got all the monies in, which is what he does. He waits till the monies come in and then he okays to pay these things. And Rainmaker, we're a little late with Rainmakers, but their check's going out next week, their final check. And other than that, that's really it.
So it doesn't matter about the grass.
No, I'm gonna finish up in the back. The back is.
Planting grass and growing grass at this airport.
I'm sorry?
Growing grass at this airport. Rainmaker's supposed to put the airport back into the condition that it was minimum,
Yeah,
that
they're
it
coming,
was when it
they're coming back in the
started.
spring
Correct.
to look at it again. John has okayed their final check, and I have processed it, so
Just
that's
about
going
it.
out. Yeah,
But,
it's not entirely their fault. They had a lot of weather that eroded everything, and, I don't think it's entirely their fault, the way it ended up. I don't like all the weeds. I would like it to be grass. It was nice grass before,
well,
and I'd like to see it nice grass again.
I think that's part of the FAA's mantra, was that it had to be as good as it was.
Yeah, they'll be back in the spring for it, to check on that.
Yeah.
They're still retaining John, the contractor, so just because it was the
Okay.
final payment doesn't mean that they've been paid in full. There's still retainage.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be sure about.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not looking at the guard system at all, right?
Yes, I am.
You're not looking?
Yes, I am.
Oh, then do we have counts?
I will email those to you.
Okay. Do we have a list of anybody that is looking for hangers, or is there no list and they just?
No.
No list, okay. What have we spent on the budget so far?
We have not
Is it
spent.
itemized at all?
Is it right?
Spreadsheet?
No.
There's no spreadsheet or anything on the itemized?
No.
Because we should be watching that closely. And,
I'm watching it, that's
well,
my job.
we watch it. We all do.
Well, you haven't been. That's my
I'm
job.
trying to.
My job and John's job. What we've spent so far is we've filled the 55-gallon drum to be ready for the trucks for winter. We've spent a little bit on maintenance. Not really too much so far.
Because the 5225 tractor needs oil change, and I think it's, I don't know, it says 17 quarts. It sounds like a lot.
No kidding.
I don't know.
On game mode
Yeah.
tractor, no, I think 17 watts.
Okay. That might be hydraulic fluid that goes into it probably.
Yeah.
And filters, things like that. Air filters. And things
That's
that
all
are,
knocked down in a book there, how many watts.
yeah, I gotta look it up, I just.
I want to say it's like 6 watts.
Yeah. The, it's still fairly clean too, so it's, you know, more time I've put on it. What's the other thing? Because we've gotta do more maintenance on that. I think the loader needs to be too, oil and grease and all that. I talked to Dave Urquhart about it, see if his mechanic could help me, because I have no idea what to do with that. I guess-
Did he do that before? Did his mechanic
The
work on
only
that
thing he
before?
looked at was the Freightliner, he took it to Winchester.
Oh, I see, okay.
There's a couple of minor things, I think, on the Freightliner that gotta be done, but it's in good shape. I think that one probably should get an inspection sticker too. I think that'll be the easiest one to get, and we gotta check on the one-ton should have an inspection sticker.
Yeah, I should have a report on that for next
The,
meeting. I'll let you know what was found.
and then, I have, let me do it here somewhere. The FAA, MassDOT wanted us to come up with a wish list of safety stuff. I made copies of one that I started putting together a few months ago of wish lists to see if they could come up with something to help us. But, maybe, feel free to take this and add notes, and we can add to it.
Yeah.
Little thing safety reasons, and some of it's safety stuff, some of it's just maintenance. And we can use, I mean, this is just stuff that I had noted that people had talked to me about. And I want to start moving on, trying to get some of this stuff done, and what we gotta do to go through it. And any questions on any of these, you can scan down through it and let me know. And I think everybody is pretty much familiar with all of this stuff. I don't know if he still has fun, whatchamacallit from MassDOT, Owen was talking about this sort of stuff. He says he's got some money to spend on stuff. And I think
Is this ranked in order of priority?
no, it's just Rhino.
I would say, yeah, definitely identify your priorities on the list
Yeah.
and then approach him with those things.
I don't know how much of it, I want to get everybody's opinion on it if you can.
Does the fire extinguisher annual inspection have a cost?
Yes.
What is it?
Depends on how many extinguishers you do and what has to be done. If they have to be recharged, he comes in and checks them. And he takes them, if they need to be recharged, he swaps them out for us.
How much did it cost last time?
I forget, but
You would have to ask Kenny that, because Kenny took care of that.
Kenny?
Yeah, Kenny worked.
Well, I did it the last couple of years, but I can't remember what he charged. I used to have trouble getting the bills. I don't get bills. Everybody else, they go into the office and I never find out what the final charge is. But there was that. There's the alarm system that's still, I get a call every week. Got a call this afternoon on that. Still not working because it's not connected to anything. And Greenwood is not servicing us. The alarm central's being paid, but they're not. But there's no connection.
Metal, diesel, fuel tank, yep. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's, that would be, the barrel's fine, but
Yeah, that was my idea.
could be a question.
Yeah.
And there's the replacement plow for the big plow. I mean, how many times, Phil, has that been put back together again?
Quite a few.
Yeah. And just see if there's money or something like that, get a lighter weight one maybe or something that would work better. Outside of the building and painting and the entrance. I don't know, I'm entertaining more. If you think of something, email me, text me, call me, let me do something so that we can add more. Like I say, I don't know, these are just stuff that I've heard from the people. I know that Isabel now worked on one of the doors a week ago, and we got lubricated the doors on the north side, got them somewhat lubricated and adjusted. I worked on the one the week before down at Saturday. What's his first name? Wood, anyhow, it was Jerry. And got it so it works better. I got a little more work to do on it. But I finally figured out how I'm going to get it done. I just get the wherewithal to do it. And fix that a little bit better. Any questions? Any thoughts on adding more? If you think something.
I suppose eventually we'll come up with something.
Huh?
Looks like a pretty good list.
Yeah, well, like I say, I've been writing down in my book, and I finally sat down today and got my word program working the way I thought it should. And
Where are we gonna get the money to do all this?
well, this is why
That's the question.
Owen wanted to seal this like this.
Some of it could be at 100%, it's funded by the state, so.
Like, I think the plows are pretty, not a lot of money, but I think it's something that he might buy at, because it's, obviously, I don't know how old that plow is, but it was probably well used when we got it. And,
Came from the city, they gave it to us.
right, and things like that, you know,
Oh, no kidding, they gave us some.
oh yeah. And, so it's just, you know, throw it out there, I mean, Dominic's,
You gotta go down to the city, eventually the guy who was plowing.
I was just gonna say that.
well, they're using them right now, because they've got the loaders. I don't know what they did with the old, but I mean, this is what's gonna be a lot of questions. And open to any of them, but having the, you know, the quick mount and stuff like that, I think they're all pretty much that way. We could use the one that's already on the old plow, that's in okay shape. And, it's just, yeah, something with a little less years on it than being beat. I think that's, you know, we're just gotta keep moving. I haven't heard anything for, it's the fuel system. He was watering the filter, he was gonna call me, and I haven't heard from him. I may give him a call back, because I want to do it before winter. That has to be checked every year. The container has no markings on the outside of it for the spill kit. And I don't know if when we had to clean up from the fuel leak in the plane, I don't know if it all got replaced. I know some of it did, but I don't know if all of it did. And I'm not sure if there's an FAA, MassDOT requirement for what's in a spill kit. I know, it's the container that I'm looking for, and we can add the stuff to it. We may need 2 containers to keep it in there, but it's, you know, I didn't even know it was a spill kit until I opened it one day and said, oh, that's good to know. But everybody's gotta know about it. And, I was surprised they opened easily, but, we have to keep thinking that we have to keep and maintain stuff. Otherwise, we'll be spending more money, a lot more money. Okay, the other thing, Isabel, I've got another bill for you, and a small one, from Ag and Turf. And, have we got the fuel bill?
Yes,
I need a copy of it, please. Because, it's a month old.
we are paying it already.
So, we gotta get that out, and we gotta figure out if we're gonna make a change. Anything else? Motion to close? Next meeting will be November 6th, day after the election. Who knows what state we'll be in. Okay, what time? We got an accurate time?
6:46.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. They're done.